Lamar Jackson ripped into the Baltimore Ravens after their Week 13 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, and frustration seems to be boiling over as John Harbaugh gets real on Justin Tucker, and there might be more wide receiver drama. All that and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin IceShaker of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here today on this not-so-victory Monday, unfortunately, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you, all podcasting platforms, that includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, also in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe as well. We're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens coverage show. News, analysis, updates, the whole 9 yards, and it's the same show whether you decide to watch in video form or listen in audio form. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Ravens fall to Philadelphia 24-19. Really disappointing, embarrassing game, if we're being honest. Ravens fall to 8-5 and enter their bye week with a lot of soul searching to do. And I will be honest here, there's a lot we have to dive into today. Honestly, almost an overwhelming amount of stuff that we have to dive into today, because it just seems like everything is boiling over with this team right now after another disappointing loss, with more ways that this team loses with self-inflicted mistakes and self-inflicted moves. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not giving no credit to Philly, right? Philly did their job and overcame stuff and did their thing. But Baltimore certainly had moments in this game where they could have won, or at least they could have made the game much more close even than it was, even though I know there was that garbage time touchdown late. But regardless, we'll start off by talking about Lamar Jackson ripping into this team. He was very passionate, animated at the podium, and he had a lot to say, so we'll talk about that in the first part of the show. Then, of course, the big conversation right now is about Justin Tucker. John Harbaugh talked about that post-game. We'll talk about him getting real on Justin Tucker and kind of the mood around him right now. And also, John Harbaugh hints at some more wide receiver drama, which is just, to be honest, unacceptable right now, but we'll talk about that. And then we'll get into more of a general Ravens and Eagles recap. We talked about it more in detail over on the live show. We go live after every single Ravens game, and we did that yesterday after the fact, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more the day after we've had a little more time to reflect, and I've had a little more time to look into some things. So let's start off with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Lamar struggled. Lamar certainly had a pretty poor game on Sunday. Because, again, we're here to praise Lamar Jackson when it's due and criticize him when it's due. And we can criticize Lamar, missed some throws for sure, didn't take rushing lanes when they were open and available to him. He certainly had his moments. He had his Lamar Jackson moments. I'm not saying he was awful, and this is the worst game I've ever seen out of him. But there were certainly moments that Lamar wishes he could have had back, and a lot of people identified that. Lamar himself, the coaching staff, broadcast, people watching the game, whoever. It was apparent that Lamar was not on his A game on Sunday. And to be fair to Lamar, he shouldn't have to be on his A game every game. But when he doesn't have a good game, we're going to talk about it, much like we talk about his good games. But Lamar shouldn't have to be on his A game all the time for the Ravens to win. And there were still moments where Lamar was able to do some good things. But still, wasn't a great game from Lamar, all things considered. Is he at the top of the list in terms of blame for this loss? Probably not, but he certainly is on the list alongside a lot of other people, because it's not just a Lamar thing, not just a Justin Tucker thing, not just a John Harbaugh thing, etc. But Lamar was very passionate again at the podium. He was asked about the Steelers. He was, okay, where's the team now sitting at, behind the 8-5 Steelers now? He said, quote, "We don't need to worry about the Steelers. We need to worry about us. That's the first thing. Worry about what we need to clean up on this side, clean that stuff up." We're a family-friendly show, so we're saying stuff instead of the word he actually used. But he was very passionate about it. Threw some cuss words in there. He said, quote, "Forget every other team. We're beating ourselves out there. There are opportunities, but we're not making them happen. We need to make those critical situations happen, and we're not doing it." Which he's right. He was very passionate even after the Chargers game, after the Steelers game, about this team. It's like, okay, well, they can't start fast. And then Lamar was asked about Oh, what about the rhythm? What about the rhythm in this game? Did you start off never getting into a rhythm? Did you feel that way? And Lamar said, I believe we did, man. At the beginning of the game, when we first got out there, I believe we were hitting on all cylinders. Then the drive, fumbled, snap, mishap. That kind of was when we started messing up right then and there. We just have to stay on task and just play our ball, just play how we play. That was a pretty good team, don't get me wrong, but I felt like we left stuff out there. Should have put more points on the board. We shouldn't have even put Tuck in those kind of situations, but it's football. Everything is not going to go right. And Lamar did say something there, right? It is on Lamar in the offense to get the ball in the end zone, to not put Justin Tucker in those situations. Baltimore went 2 for 5 in the red zone on Sunday. Lamar is correct, where it is an offensive failure when you are putting Justin Tucker in the situations that you do, but obviously it's on Justin Tucker to go out there and convert. We'll talk more about Tuck in the second part of the show, but it just seems like it's a different thing every week. And it also feels like the units just flip-flop on who plays well and who doesn't. Like it feels that way it's felt that way, honestly, for the majority of the season. You have the offense play well, but the defense doesn't, and the special teams doesn't. Then the special teams plays well, but then the offense and defense don't. Or maybe the defense plays well like we saw yesterday, but guess what? The offense and special teams don't do well at all. So it's like they get a rhythm, then they don't, or they don't get a rhythm, then they do. It's like they can't have it both ways. And that to me is concerning. It's concerning with Lamar, concerning with Todd Monken, concerning with the offense in general. This is a historic level offense we've seen, but they have too many peaks and valleys for what this offense actually is. And Lamar also talked about the lack of consistency, said, quote, we need to be more consistent, taking a play at a time. There are good situations in games where our first play is good, but it's a penalty. It's 1st and 20. We still get back on track, then we start making positive things happen. We just need to get in that situation and don't try to blame things on one play. The game is not won off one play early in the game. Probably later in the game, it probably is, but early in the game, we need to just fix this and fix that and move on. That's what we need to do. And he's right. The consistency is off with this team. It's not just an offensive issue, but Lamar is correct. They need to be a much more consistent team because they got out to that 9-0 lead. Should have been 10, but, we're not crying over spilled milk here. I mean, we kind of are, but regardless, it gets out to the 9-0 lead, and then it just feels like stuff falls off. Like the play action game is working. Derrick Henry's finding some positives. And then you just abandon stuff and you get cute on a 3rd down with the screen pass or something. Or you call a weird 2nd and 10 run that goes nowhere. It's like or a 1st and 10 play that goes incomplete and all of a sudden you're in 2nd and long. Like those are the things they need to clean up on. And you could see the Eagles actively correcting those things. Even when the Eagles were struggling and Baltimore's defense was stopping Philly, forcing them to go 3 and out, a lot of that was because they were calling bad plays. And the execution wasn't there early for sure, but they were calling these weird plays on 1st down that were putting them in 2nd and long and then again on 3rd and long, or when they were stopped and it was a 1-yard gain from Saquon and it was 2nd and 9, they would call this weird pass play incomplete. Okay, now you're 3rd and 9. They actively adjusted to that and tried to put themselves in better situations by running on 1st down or running the RPO game, which Baltimore had trouble with, and that actively put them in better offensive situations. We didn't see that enough from Baltimore on Sunday, and frankly, despite how good the offense has been, we haven't seen it enough all season. And this is not just me being wishy-washy with, they win, I'm going to praise them, they lose, I'm going to go in. If you've been listening to me on this show, I've been saying this all year. I've been saying this all season, where it feels like something works and then the Ravens just move away from it. And that is frustrating for a lot of people. I'm sure it's frustrating for Lamar. I'm sure it's frustrating for the team. It's obviously frustrating for the fans and the people who watch the game and the media and whatever. It's frustrating for everybody. You have to be able to get into that consistent rhythm. It just feels like Baltimore takes themselves out of it. If a defense does it, then fine. It's part of the game. But if you do it to yourself, self-inflicted wounds, I saw multiple times on Twitter. I can't remember who said it, so I apologize. But the Ravens are dealing with September problems in December, and no Super Bowl team does that. Super Bowl teams find ways to overcome that. And while there are certainly issues every team still has to work through in December, I'm not saying that's the case. The Ravens are still working through things that other teams cleaned up 2 months ago. And we're still talking about it on December 2nd. A lot of people talk about, this is going to be a December to remember. It's been 1 day. It's a December to forget so far. Lamar also talked about how frustrating it was to not score points in the 3rd quarter. They almost got shut out in the second half, by the way. They were 3 seconds away from getting shut out in the second half. Lamar said, quote, I'm trying to find the right word to say about that, but, man, we have to finish. We just have to finish those drives, man, especially in a game like this. They have a great team and a great offense and defense. We have to put points on the board. We just didn't do that until later on in the game when it was over. And he also talked about, because Lamar wasn't just passionate, Lamar's family got into the action. Lamar's mom, he revealed, ended up cussing him out for not taking some of the rushing lanes. Lamar said, quote, she said there were lanes I should have taken and ran, but I was trying to let guys develop routes. We had guys developing routes. I was just trying to go through my progressions, but yes, she's right. I'm sorry for this. I'm just mad because I feel like we should win these games, and we're not getting it done. Again, Lamar's very adamant. He's very passionate, and he wants to win. So he takes losses hard, and he's his biggest critic. It's 100% true. When Lamar loses, he takes it to heart. He wants to find ways to improve himself, improve his team, and that is the sign of a good leader. That is the sign of a good leader. I think Lamar, and we talked about this with Kadri Ismail, who had a bunch of great stories about leadership, especially when it comes to the team, both current and former players. But I think Lamar's leadership has grown, and this is one of them, where you look at Lamar, and he cares. He cares. You cannot question Lamar and how much he cares about this team and the city and winning football games. But the team as a whole is not living up to a standard that was put on them before the season. This is a 5-loss football team. This team had 4 losses all year last year, and one of them was a Week 18 game where nobody played. This is not the same team as last year, and of course, nobody expected it to be. Every team is different, but that still it's disappointing when we're still talking about these things because, again, every team goes through issues throughout a season. No team is perfect throughout a year. Every team has stuff they got to figure out. But Baltimore just hasn't figured out a lot of these issues, or they'll go away, and then they'll come back. So that's unfortunate. But when Lamar was asked about where the team is at this point in the season, Lamar kind of kept everything grounded. He said, just take a deep breath, just sit back and get ready for the ride. That's what I take from it. So kind of a grounding way to look at things from Lamar, despite all of the frustration that Lamar ends up going through, this team ends up going through. It is tough. And again, he said, quote, Lamar on his mom cussing him out. One more on this. He said, yes, my mama just told me that. She cussed me out, so I'm mad. We're going to get after it. I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to get after it. I can't wait for this bye week going on. We have the Giants coming up. I'm ready to go. I'm just ready to go. The Ravens are going to be motivated here. They have a really I wouldn't say tough in terms of the teams they're playing, but 3 games in 10 days is tough. These are NFL franchises, and while Baltimore should be able to win a lot of these games, I'm sure the confidence level, especially when you talk about playoffs, it's at an all-time low for this team. So they have to get it together 1,000%. And Lamar also made it clear that he's not making a conceited effort and a concerted effort to run less. He said, no, that's not on my mind. Trying to let things happen, get my guys opportunities of getting the ball. That's all, just going through his progressions. So he always says he's going to put himself in front of the line. That's what he said here again. He played all right, but yes, I'm just ticked off because we left things out there on that field. Me and everyone, it's a team sport, and there's no I in team. So again, Lamar putting his leadership on full display, but calling out the team and going in on them after a tough loss. Coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk about John Harbaugh getting real on Justin Tucker, the wide receiver drama he hinted at, and so much more. Coming up next here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by IceShaker. Hey, Locked On Ravens fans, I know you're like me and your holiday shopping list is, let's just say, far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fans in your life. Perhaps you've heard of IceShaker. IceShaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB, and will make the ideal gift. Created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers, IceShakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with workout bottles, and this is the gift you've been looking for. Go to IceShaker.com and use code LOCKEDONNFL to check out to save 25% off your order. And they have kitchen-grade stainless steel bottles that won't absorb water like the plastic bottles do. And you also have the patented twist, and it's also customizable. Send us your logo or check out our custom shop to customize your favorite bottle. Turnaround time on custom bottles is 3 to 5 business days. Order your team branded bottles today at IceShaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. IceShakers, show your support for your teams with the best brand and workout bottles on the market, IceShakers. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. My favorite part of the holidays is really just taking it all in with people I care about, friends, family, and just getting that quality time together. How do you stay cozy during the winter months? For some, wrapping up in a blanket with a mug of hot chocolate or watching a movie with the family is the best way to spend the month of December. Therapy is a great way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. In therapy, it has so many benefits, from learning positive coping skills to how to set boundaries to empowering you to become the best version of yourself. Plus, it isn't just for those who have experienced major trauma. It's for everyone. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. We're back our second segment here on Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still breaking down everything with you from a Ravens perspective. Really appreciate, again, all the support here on Locked On Ravens. In video form, we're coming up on 10,000 subscribers, which is a huge goal here on the video side of things. Was one of my big goals since day one. And, of course, we have multiple of those goals we got to hit. But 10K, really big one. So be sure, if you like to consume our video content, to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you are an audio listener, you consume our content in audio form. That community has been growing every single day. Really appreciate the audio listeners. Be sure to hit that follow and subscribe button as well over there. And be sure to tell a friend or a family member if they're looking for Ravens coverage 5 days a week. We are daily here. We do more bonus episodes as well, live shows after games. Be sure to tell any friends or family members that we are here for them as well on Locked On Ravens. Now, again, the big story for the Ravens on Sunday was Justin Tucker. Honestly, the big story all season for the Ravens has been Justin Tucker and his fall off. I guess we kind of got a sneak preview of it last year when he was really bad from 50+, but it has gotten worse. Justin Tucker misses 3 kicks on Sunday against Philadelphia. And if you want to play the numbers game, 5-point loss, 7 points left on the board from Justin Tucker. An extra point and 2 field goals. And you could tell it's tough. It's really hard to watch. He's in his head. He feels awful about it. You can tell. And it's really sad. And I feel awful talking about Justin Tucker this way. He's meant so much to this team and so much to this franchise. He's the greatest kicker of all time. And this stretch, this season, will not change my opinion on that. But we have to be realistic and honest about the situation and saying that Justin Tucker is costing the Ravens football games. This is a team that at least has 2 more wins under their belt if Justin Tucker does his job effectively. Maybe more. You know, that Pittsburgh game and this game too. I mean, the games look vastly different. If not, they win them. And you can argue that he had a hand. In fact, it's pretty evident he had a hand in a lot of other Baltimore losses this year. Now, it's not all on Justin Tucker, but it is a very important thing because a lot of these top teams, particularly in the AFC, they have kickers that are some of the best in the league or kickers that have overcome their early season struggles. Justin Tucker is neither of those right now. He's the worst kicker in the league statistically. He's missed 10 kicks this year, worst mark in the NFL. Added, again, 3 more to that total on Sunday. And he's a player that before, the past decade we've been watching Justin Tucker. We saw that, we just felt the calm. It was just a calm that washed over you when Justin Tucker walked out there to kick. Didn't matter how far the kick was. You had confidence that thing was going in. Now it just feels like even on the chip shot field goals or on the extra points, you're on the edge of your seat praying the ball goes in and kind of leaning with the ball as it goes and tilts. He's overcorrecting. We saw him on that last one miss wide right. And on the extra point with no pressure with 3 seconds left, that thing almost doinked off the upright. Wide right, too. Obviously, the story's been wide left for him. Obviously, John Harbaugh was asked about Justin Tucker, and so was the team. And he said, quote, "I just saw the misses. We'll go back and look at all the stuff. Just do the best we can to figure it out. Justin is definitely capable of making every kick. We need to make those kicks. Nobody wants to make it more than Justin, though. I promise you that." And John Harbaugh is also asked straight up, do you envision giving Justin Tucker the space to work through this? And he said, quote, "You've been working through it. You work through it with every single player, every single thing. You fight to try to help the guys be successful. We'll do that. If you're asking me, are we going to move on from Justin Tucker? I'm not really planning on doing that right now. I don't think that'd be wise, but he'll tell you, and he'll be the first to tell you he needs to make those kicks because he can. I just think if you look at Justin Tucker's history, you have to say he's capable of doing that. So that's something he's going to want to do, and we're all going to want him to do it. There was all the stuff about a technique issue, and they're fixed it. It's done. He's going to be great now. That was never a thing. He's still missing kicks. John Harbaugh expressing confidence in his guy, but not doing it as glowingly as we've heard him over the past couple of months. It's not, he's going to make those kicks, right? We believe in Justin, and he knows he's going to make them. We know he's going to make them. That's not the message here. It's just kind of like, well, we're going to work through it, and we're going to fight through these things. And, his history says he's capable, and, he's going to want to do it. We all want him to do it too. That's not as glowing of an endorsement as we have heard. And I'm sure Harbaugh's frustrated. He's not going to, but here's the thing. He's not going to go out there and up there on that podium and just grill his guy and say, yeah, Justin's been terrible. And man, this is awful. He needs to really get it together, or he's going to be in some serious trouble. John Harbaugh's not going to go up there and do that. That loses all trust with the player. You lose the locker room if you do something like that. That's just not going to happen. Now, if you're looking at options for the Ravens, if you're looking at people, who could the Ravens bring in? There really isn't anybody that I'd trust over Justin Tucker. Now, that's not saying that Justin Tucker's a guy that I trust right now, because I don't. But do you trust Randy Bullock? Do you trust Cade York? Those are some of the names that are out there right now. I'm not saying there's not a kicker that can challenge Justin Tucker and push him to be better, but I think the conversation on what happens with Justin Tucker, happens in the offseason. Because I just don't think there's a guy that you can put in and replace Justin Tucker with right now. Doesn't mean the season is lost, maybe. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Justin Tucker gives the Ravens the best shot to win right now, because right now, the way he's kicking, he doesn't. But this also is, what does the hold have to do with it? Does the snap have anything to do with it? What's going on with some of these things on the special teams unit that have been issues all year? But obviously with Justin Tucker, do you want to bet on a free agent kicker who's out there right now and can't get signed because they're not good? Or would you rather bank your season on the future Hall of Famer who's the best kicker of all time, who is having a historically bad season? I don't love either option, but you just have to roll with Justin Tucker and see what happens. Money-wise, doesn't really make a lot of sense either. You're going to have to give him a couple more weeks to probably figure it out. I would bring in some competition, and I wouldn't even label it as competition. I would probably call it just another leg to have just in case. But I think what the Ravens are going to do here, whether you agree with it or not, is they're probably just going to let Justin Tucker rock it out. That's probably what's going to happen. And then in the offseason, we can have the conversation about, is Justin Tucker the right kicker for this team anymore? But it's terrible. Man, I keep thinking about it and just replaying all the great memories that Tucker's given this team over the years, and kind of seeing what he is now. All the confidence gone, the fans booing him and everything at the stadium. You have to feel for him. It's a tough situation. If this was just any other thing, but we also have to be fair in this and say, this is a what have you done for me now lately league. And I would be saying Tucker needs to be out of there if there was a better option, despite his history with the team. But there's not. There's enough to bring in a level of competition and just another leg. But I don't think this late in the year you can find somebody else. Chiefs are finding guys left and right. That's an option. It certainly is. But you kind of have to look yourself in the mirror here and say, is Randy Bullock a better kicking option than Justin Tucker? Is Cade York a better kicking option than Justin Tucker? And I say no. It's not great either way. Right? I'm not saying Justin Tucker's the shoo-in and it's great and it's going to be fine. We're past the point of that. But it still is a really tough situation that's going on right now, because this player is actively costing you games. But it almost feels like there's very little they can do about it. Usually there are guys out there, but at this point, everybody's, it's not. I looked over the free agent kicker list. It's not very impressive. If there was a better option, I would tell you, but there's not. And so you kind of have to roll with this and see how it goes, which is a pretty risky thing to do considering what we've seen. But I mean, if there's any solace, which I don't think a lot of people are taking right now, Tuck has the resume. He has the experience. The other guys on the free agent market don't. I think that's who you kind of got to roll with and just see how it all plays out. Although, man, it is a bad situation all around because Justin Tucker has not been good. And I just feel like there's so much that goes into this thing, and it's just tough to watch overall. Coming up with the final part of the show, we'll talk about the wide receiver drama that's going on with the Ravens right now, or at least the drama that John Harbaugh is hinting at. Plus, we'll talk about the Ravens and Eagles game a little bit more, talking about a recap of that. Stay tuned, a lot to get to on the show. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get 100 in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, your live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So for the Ravens and Eagles game, if you had the over on Saquon Barkley rushing yards on the Philly side of things, you're probably living large over on FanDuel, unfortunately, for the Ravens side. Just visit FanDuel.com again to join today. I'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 of the bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste 100. Make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And the show is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to watch football live, especially when the Ravens win. Speaking of Ravens wins, I went to the Ravens 49ers Super Bowl in New Orleans. The lights went out in that game. I didn't have anything to do with that, by the way, but a ton of memories created at that game, and I love making new memories every time I go. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And Game Time has tickets for all events, concert shows, not just sports. So for the Ravens, if you want to find tickets to an upcoming Ravens game coming out of the bye next week, be sure to go to Game Time. They have super deals and other tiers of deals too. Plus, the app has so many great features like Game Time Picks, seat views, lowest price guarantee, Game Time ticket coverage, and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Now on the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Turns by again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL, spelled LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. And the show is brought to you by DK Law Group. If you need a law firm, do you want the legal runaround, or would you rather have a no-nonsense approach? Or you get the latter with DK Law Group. DK Law Group is a Maryland-based law firm who is redefining the legal process with their modern approach. DK Law Group specializes in real estate law, estate planning, business law, and family law. They're tech-savvy, they treat clients like family, and they focus on keeping your legal solutions simple. DK Law Group is a woman-led firm with Diana Khan at the helm. Diana has been called an unparalleled legal expert by some. One of the things I'll quickly notice with DK Law Group is their transparent pricing. They believe in clarity and cost and no one left in limbo. DK Law Group knows that speed is key. By leveraging technology, DK Law Group streamlines the process to serve you better and faster. Contact DK Law Group today at dklawmd.com. Lock down listeners and call today to schedule a free 30-minute consultation when you mention the tagline, Empowering Legacies. We're back. Our final segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin IceShaker still here with you on this Monday edition of the show. Again, really appreciate all the support. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, video form and audio form, for 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage. Now, John Harbaugh was very cryptic, non-committal when asked about Deontay Johnson. For those that don't know what's going on here, Rashad Bateman left the game with a knee injury, and Deontay Johnson played 0 snaps the entire game. It was Nelson Aguilar. It was Tylan Wallace. Deontay Johnson not involved in the game plan, not involved with the team. And he was asked about, well, okay, first of all, for Rashad Bateman's knee, Harbaugh said that it was sore, too sore for him to go back out there at the end. But then he talked about, what about Deontay Johnson? You know, what's going on with him, and why is that going on? And John Harbaugh said, quote, "I'm not really ready to comment on that right now. I will be, but I just don't have enough information right now to talk about it." How does the head coach not have enough information? All right, this is what I want to know. This is the head coach of an NFL football team. We've done this. We've the ring around the rosy that we're talking about with John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, does not have enough information to comment on one of his players? Where is the chain of communication here if this is the case? This, to me, is not a serious football team right now. They're not. They don't execute at a high level. The coaching staff is not there fully. And you don't know what's going on with your players. So in reality, what I think is really going on here is, yes, John Harbaugh knows what's going on with Diontae Johnson, but this is just another case of a football team that has way too much drama around it. This is not a championship team the way that this is going, because championship teams do not have distractions like this for the entire season, where it was Marcus Williams and then it was Eddie Jackson. It's been Diontae Johnson a couple of times now. Did Diontae, what's the deal? Did Diontae Johnson refuse to go in the game? Was there something that happened before the game? What are we doing here? Lamar said he'd speak with Diontae Johnson, and of course he wants him out there and traded for him from Carolina for a reason. Lamar echoed those sentiments. But how are we talking about the head coach of a football team does not know what's going on with his players during a game to not get him in the game? That, to me, is ridiculous. All right, there are a lot of things that John Harbaugh said this year about drama, keeping stuff in-house, not making a big deal about it. Okay, that at least says you know what's going on, right? But I've said this all year. This is not just me flipping because they lost. Again, I don't do that. I've said this all season. They've had distractions this year, and they've had too many. It's very uncharacteristic for this football team, but it feels like the secondary is just all out of sorts and has been for the year. Marcus Williams now a healthy scratch. I'm sure that's not going over very well. It just feels like there's distraction on top of distraction. You bring in Diontae Johnson to be a depth piece, and he can't even get on the field. All these things, and again, John Harbaugh, maybe we'll hear something today, and we can talk about it on tomorrow's episode about what's going on there. But, what's the deal? We're talking about drama. And maybe it was nothing. Harbaugh really was only hinting at it. I'm not coming out here and saying, oh, yes, there's 100% drama. But even if there's not, to say that, there's not enough information, unless there was an injury that happened, right? Unless Diontae felt something warming up and it was a doctor thing. There's not a chain of communication, but he should at least know something, right? At least something. So we'll see. We'll see what's said today during Harbaugh's press conference, and we'll talk about it if there's anything. But that to me is just, I don't know. It's a little crazy. It's a little crazy. And then Zay Flowers obviously expressed frustration on the field. Not the first time Zay's expressed frustration both on or off of the field this year. So just, again, all this different stuff that's going on. Now, quick stuff about the game. I thought that Baltimore, the run game never really got going. Lamar struggled a lot. I thought the defense played really well. Shout out to the defense. They did enough to keep the Ravens in the game. Enough opportunities. But the special teams, Tylan Wallace had a terrible game at the punt return position. It was awful all the way around there. Team stat-wise, the Ravens go 6 of 15 on third down. Philly 4 of 12. Again, that's enough from that defense. That is enough. But, again, tough all around. Baltimore held the ball for almost 8 minutes more than Philly did. So, it's just a really tough game. And the penalties weren't even an issue this time. Penalties were fine. It was the other stuff, the other self-inflicted mistakes that continue to get Baltimore in a bind. So just frustrating all the way around for sure. We talked about it a lot more in depth on the post-game show, breaking it all down. And, of course, we'll have a lot more in depth on it this week as well throughout the bye week, because we're going to have to dwell on it for 2 weeks now. So that's the situation as it comes. That's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens, though. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Again, it means the world to me. Be sure to, on the way out, hit that like and subscribe button, video form, audio form. Tell a friend, tell a family member. When we get back here tomorrow, of course, more Ravens content and coverage. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.